visions that are happening in the night. So, and there's 8 of them, and they all connect. They all have a central theme, although they deal with different things. And they go, these 8 night visions, and they culminate with the crowning of Joshua the high priest, which is a key event, okay? And then the rest of the book goes on with other prophecies. But these first 8 talk about Israel in general and other things. So we're going to get into it. And so we are in Zechariah chapter 1, verse 7. On the 24th day of the 11th month, which is Shabbat, in the 2nd year of Darius, the word of the Lord came to Zechariah the prophet, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo. I saw at night, and behold, a man was riding on a red horse, and he was standing among the myrtle trees, which were in a ravine, with red, sorrel, white horses behind him. Then I said, My Lord, what are these? The angel who was speaking with me said to me, I will show you what these are. And the men who were standing among the myrtle trees answered and said, These are those whom the Lord has sent to patrol the earth. So they answered the angel of the Lord, who was standing among the myrtle trees, and said, We have patrolled the earth, and behold, all the earth is peaceful and quiet, right? So they answered the angel of the Lord, who was standing among the myrtle trees, We have patrolled the earth, and all is peaceful and quiet. I reread that verse. I'm sorry. Go down to 12. Then the angel of the Lord said, O Lord of hosts, how long will you have no compassion for Jerusalem and the cities of Judea, which you have been indignant with these 70 years? The Lord answered the angel who was speaking with me with gracious words and comforting words. Okay, another recap and something to remember in the book of Zechariah, and a strong theme of the book of Zechariah is the Lord remembers. That's what his name means, the Lord remembers. And that is surely a picture of what's going on in the book of Zechariah. Remember, at this time that Israel's receiving that Zechariah is receiving these prophecies to give to the people of Israel, that at that time they were in a distressful state. They were downtrodden. They had been in captivity in Babylon because Israel had fallen under judgment, and God had brought them back as he promised to Israel to restore them, but they are in a state of rebuilding. They're still demoralized. They're still under the subject of Gentile rulers, and their enemies all around Israel are hostile to them. So it's not an easy time for them to try to rebuild the temple and Jerusalem in that restoration period. And so it's very, very tough for them to look at one time, Israel being the superpower of the world, and God working through them mightily to this. Now the nation has been basically just wrecked, and now they have to restore it. And God is remembering that as he's been bringing them back from Babylon, restoring them, and he's giving them comforting words and good words to carry on the mission, looking forward to the nation's better days, right? That those excellent better days are in the millennium when Jesus rules from Jerusalem in the nation, but also for that time too, as he was restoring them, the temple, the city of Jerusalem and the nation, right? So, what does he see? He said he lifted up his eyes, and he sees a rider on a red horse. And not only does he see a rider on a red horse, he sees other riders who report to him basically on other colored horses. Some are white, some are red, or some are what's called sorrel, like a mix of colors, right? And so something here you can see in Zechariah, it's a red horse. This kind of reminds or has kind of themes of the second horse of the four horsemen in Revelation, right? In 6, where first is the rider on the white horse that has a bow, goes to conquer. The second is the red horse of war. The third is famine and hunger and pestilence, and the fourth is obviously death and Hades, right? The pale horse. So this right here, he sees this rider on a red horse and other different colored horses that are there with him. And it says they're in a ravine, or they're in a glen with myrtle trees, right? So they're in a depression in like this not a valley, but more like a glen where they're kind of hidden, and they're in between myrtle trees, right? There's angels there. And there's an angel talking to Zechariah, explaining these things that he's seeing in this vision. So he sees the rider on the red horse. And this rider of the red horse seems to be a captain, because these other horses, these other riders have come back, and it says these have patrolled the earth. In other words, really, this is not a better translation is like a military reconnaissance. They have gone out and patrolled the earth and came back to report that it is at quiet, or it is at peace and is quiet. Now you got to remember, at that time there were wars going on. So what does he mean? He is talking in relation to the nation of Israel and God's plans that he has for his people. That's the juxtaposition there, or that's the comparison, that Israel is in this distressed state of rebuilding and demoralization, while the other kings of the earth, or the Gentiles, if you want to say, or the other cities of the earth, the people of the earth, are quiet and living in peace. In other words, while God's people are demoralized while they're trying to rebuild the temple. Okay, so that's what he sees. He sees a rider on the red horse and these other riders who are angels. And this also, this thing patrolling the earth also kind of has it is very similar language in different parts of the Bible, like in Job, where it says that Satan walked to and fro the earth on it, right? So obviously his purposes are bad, these purposes are good of these angels, where they kind of patrolled and considered what was going on, right? Okay. And so he sees the angels, and then so he asks, he sees this rider on a red horse who is a captain, who these other angels, these riders, pictured as riders that have patrolled the earth, have answered them, and they said the earth is in this state, right? Compared to Israel, the whole land, the whole world is at quiet and peace. And so, first of all, someone comes up, the name here, the angel of the Lord, comes up, and that's a very important title in the Old Testament. It's a very important title because, as you can see, read in Judges, you can read in Exodus and other places, that it's when the angel of the Lord, okay, for instance, when Joshua was about to undertake the battle of Jericho, he's walking around the camp or outside the camp, and he sees this angel with a flaming sword, and it's the angel of the Lord, and he says, "Whose side you on? You for us or for them?" And he's like, "I'm on the Lord's side. Take off your sandals, Joshua." And so he did. And so this person, he is an angel. Remember also, I'm going to back up just a second. Follow me here a second, not to take a detour, but this is also important. The word angel, both in the Old Testament and New Testament, simply means messenger. It can mean a human messenger. It just means simply messenger. Now, often it is a supernatural being, okay? But it just means messenger. In the Greek, it's angelos, where we get the word angel. So often an angel, so in the Hebrew, sorry, I've never studied Hebrew, so don't know. But in here, it does, what I do know enough to know and have studied it, it just means messenger. Both Greek and Hebrew, it just means messenger, right? And so this angel of YHWH, or angel of the Lord, right, is this captain, seems to be this captain who these other angels are answering to and giving a report of their findings, of their reconnaissance. Okay? And so the angel of the Lord, often scholars agree very much so that it's a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus Christ. Remember, in the beginning was the Word. John 1:1, and the Word was with God, the Word was God, and in the beginning was with God, right? And all things were made by him. So Jesus didn't just come into existence when he was born as a man. He's also the eternal God, but he does show up in the Old Testament, often what they call it a pre-incarnation. That means before he came and was born a baby and as a man, and fulfilled his ministry here on earth and went back to heaven, died, rose again, and on the third day and went back to heaven, right? And so here we see Jesus as in his before he came. So his title is often given angel of the Lord, the angel of the Lord. So this person who is talking to Zechariah, and if you get into I've got a good commentary here that I'm reading to help me with this as I study it. And a lot of, like I said, the flavor here that the commentary says, which is Merle Unger, in his commentary on Zechariah, basically is saying that, if you get deep into the language and the structure of it, the person that's actually interpreting these things for Zechariah, is, at least in this particular vision, is the angel of the Lord, right? So that he is discussing these things. And so what happens? The rider on the red horse, which is the angel of the Lord, the captain of the riders that the angels are reporting to, gets this report, and there's a reaction from him, and there's an emotional reaction, and he says, Lord, O Lord of hosts, how long will you were angry with Israel for these 70 years. That was the captivity in Babylon, right? How long will you not have compassion on him? I'm paraphrasing, seriously paraphrasing here. And so here's a picture of Jesus as the angel of the Lord. He's not an angel. He is he is the eternal God, but in this sense, the messenger of the Lord, right? Which is a title in the Old Testament, which I just went over. So at this point, he becomes like an intercessor for Israel, because now he's talking to his Father. Jesus is talking to his Father, the angel of the Lord. So he's talking to his Father, saying, how long is Israel going to stay in this state? How long how long before she's comforted, the nation of Israel? And he receives back from the Lord good and comforting words. And that's also the theme of all of Zechariah, to comfort Israel at that time, and us, and obviously many other prophecies, but good and comforting words. That's a key verse. Good and comforting and comforting words. So that is Zechariah chapter 1, verse 13. Good and comforting words he receives from the Lord. Okay. He's interceding for Israel. The angel of the Lord is by talking to his Father, by talking to the Lord. That's an intercessory role there. And I also want to say here, this gets kind of deep, but I want to say this, that the visions that he receives, just not this one, but the other 7 and the other 7 of the book, deals with the times of the Gentiles. And it was like, what is the times of the Gentiles? Jesus talks about it in Matthew 24. I would encourage you to read that. And so the time of the Gentiles is the time that the Jewish people, God's chosen people, are under the dominion and subjugation of Gentile powers, okay? And it starts from Nebuchadnezzar back that brought, and who was king of Babylon, who took the nation captive. It starts with that and goes all the way until the tribulation, until Jesus sets up his kingdom and rules from Jerusalem for 1,000 years. It's called the millennial reign. So yes, Jesus, when he came and talked about the kingdom of God is near you and what God's doing and talking about salvation and all these things that he was revealing, he was talking about that, but he also talks about the kingdom of God is the millennial reign of Jesus being glorified because he had risen from the dead, come back and reigning for 1,000 years as Israel's rightful king, and the nations will be subject to him, right? Okay, so I just want to say that. So remember that the scope of this book and his intercession right here, where he says, "Lord, oh Lord," the angel of the Lord is saying to God, basically, how long will you not have comfort on Israel? That scope is the time of the Gentiles, or from the time that Israel was in captivity to Babylon and Jerusalem was destroyed, the temple was destroyed, going all the way until in the final 7 years of the tribulation, the world systems are overthrown, God's judgment is given, and he sets up his own kingdom and reigns for 1,000 years. So I wanted to make that clear. So he's given comforting words and good words, and this is to the people of Israel. And so I just wanted to recap on some things. I know I kind of went on some tangents, but those are key concepts to understanding the scope and of Zechariah. So that is all for today.